So I'm just out on a collection at Crediton. Stopped at this fantastic new garden centre here with an amazing view for a bit of cake and coffee with Mrs. Chops, because she's driven me down to pick up this Renault Captur from one of our subscribers' mother-in-laws and mother-in-law, and yeah, it's a fantastic car. 29,000 miles on it. She's owned it from brand new. It has a full service history. She even had the cam belt done, which most people don't when the mileage is this low. It's in fantastic condition, beautiful colour. So it's got the 1.5 DCI engine in it, which is a cracking engine. We know I like it. It's got keyless entry, sat nav, cruise control, Bluetooth, all in fantastic condition. She's given me all the invoices for the services as well as the stamp booked. I do owe her a big apology. She was driving this up to me on Monday, and there was a bit of a family thing happened, and I agreed to help out and totally forgot I was due to meet the lady. So she had a wasted trip up to mine, and she was doing that so that she got more money for the car, because obviously I had to discount some if I had to pick it up. So the only right thing to do was give her the full price for it and go and pick it up myself, because I wasted her time the day before. But she was incredibly gracious about it, so I have to thank her for that. And yeah, lovely to meet her and the family. And just thanks again for thinking of me when it came to selling the car, because it's an absolute cracker. But let's go and celebrate with a bit of cake and coffee, hey? Oh, and a big thanks to the subscriber that suggested that she get in touch with me as well. I didn't ask to use his name, so I haven't used his name. But yeah, no, massive thanks to you as well. Really, very much appreciated. Cracking drive. So we're moving some motors today. I've got my mate Nick here from Wheel Easy, and he is taking away all the cars I don't think are worth me dealing with, and he's doing me a bulk deal on it. Well, I'm doing him a bulk deal on it. He's taking away the Cubo, 207's going, EOS is going, Yaris is going, and the Berlingo is going. All of these cars, I'm driving one over for him, all of these cars have hours and hours of work in them. I'm not going to get round to doing them. He's getting me out of some cars I overpaid for on part exchange, so I'm coming out and making a bit of cash and getting full money out of the deals I took the part exchange in, which means those deals are now very profitable. So that's how it's going to work for me. Basically, where I had to have written some of the cars back and still made a good profit on the deal, now I'm not having to write these cars back, because as part of the bundle deal, I'm losing a bit on some and gaining some on some others. So that is how it's working, and he's happy to take on all these cars that need a bit of work. So I'm driving the Berlingo over from, which is a car I've driven quite a lot and I've quite enjoyed driving, and this is the one I probably would have kept for retail, but this is the one that is probably making the deal worth it overall to him. When I'm not in such a hurry, I'll try and explain the matter a bit before Royston kicks my rear end, which he no doubt will. So I'm at Nick's, and he's just picked up this Lexus locally, an LS 400. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar with this car, it was Lexus's attempt to beat Mercedes and BMW to the full-blown luxury market. And these things are renowned for being absolutely bulletproof. They've done 500,000. I think there's one on YouTube with 1 million miles on it. They are super quiet, super smooth, powered by a 4-litre V8. And this one's got 200,000 miles on it, only 2 owners from new on a N plate. I forget what year N is now. Is that 94? I don't know. But only 2 owners from new, stacks of history, and it's in really nice condition. It's got some minor paint that would be probably worth doing based on the condition of the rest of the car. Look at the leather inside. Yeah, some very minor paint on it. I love the green in these. They really do look good. I had an LS 430, which was the model that came after this. Yeah, a little bit of paint just there. It's the model that came after this. But the 400 was the birth of it all. And it's got really thick pile caps. We might get the keys and have a look inside. There we go. Got the keys to it now. Look at the leather. It's got some very light crack. I think if that was fed, that would come back again. The interiors last forever, because they were built with no real budget in mind. This is when the accountants didn't get in the way of cars back in the old days. It's a bit like my Camry I had, but obviously just massively upper level. All the carpets are still in beautiful condition. Well, the leather back here smells fantastic. Might just start it up just to show you how quiet these things were. Oh, well, LS430 is still in my top 10 cars I've ever owned. It was an incredible car. Oh, electrically adjustable steering wheel, obviously full auto. Started straight up. Yeah, 208,000. This is a car that mileage does not worry me whatsoever. Super quiet inside. Yeah, stacks and stacks of paperwork here. Now Nick is only asking 3,995 for this, which I think heated seats is an absolute bargain. I'm assuming that comes with a new MOT. We've got cruise control, we've got heated seats, obviously all round electric windows. You've got your different settings. One here for the gearbox. Yeah, I used to drive one of these for work. Not one of these, the 430 for work, and yeah, it was just one of the most comfortable cars you could ever drive. You never felt like you were tired driving these cars. Beautiful. It's got lots of go as well, but obviously being a V8 4 litre. Oh, there's a bit more paint here on the front wings where it's cracking. That could
be embarrassed about having that as a toy, would you?
No. A bit more cracking on the front wings than this when I first walked around it. Both front wings could really do with a repaint. They're cracking. It depends how much far you want to go with it. But these were voted the most reliable car in the world as well. They just go on forever and ever. I know my Lexus, I never had an issue with it. Customer service was fantastic. And the servicing on them is really quite low because most of it's Toyota bits and bobs. You get Toyota servicing prices, so don't need to pay a premium on that. But I think for what Nick's asking, for 3,995, you could use this daily. You could still turn up at a car show at the weekend, and you could still get in and drive up country to see your family, and it would do all of those things absolutely fine. Yeah, fantastic find by him there. So we have a little nose as to whatever else he's got retail as well. So Nick and I are kind of competing because we're in the same area, but at the same time we don't. We help each other out where possible. He does very nice level of prep. They'll get machine polished, they'll get brand new MOTs, and they'll get serviced if due within the next 6 months, same as me, to be honest. He's got some nice stuff in here. Nice yellow sole there. It's quite cool in that colour. It's got one of my favourites, a Dacia Stepway. I do like a Stepway. 17 plate. That seems like a cheap Duke. 3,995 on a 12 plate. Hyundai i40. We know like a Hyundai. It's got a Mocha. It's all good stock. Suzuki Swift, which is obviously one of my faves as well. Bit jealous he's got that one. 3.5 for a 12. That's good value for money as well. He's got the automatic Ford Focus I sold on to him. That's a bit fancy, 12 grand. Is that a CRV? That's a nice looking car. Just getting a lowdown on this. It's what is it? It's not a CRV, is it? It's an FRV, isn't it? I think. Is it an FRV? Let's have a look at the back of it. HRV. So this is the cheapest in the country by 5 grand apparently. And the reason being, it's got 120,000 miles on it. But looking at the condition of this car, that wouldn't bother me at all, because that kind of mileage means it must have been sat in top gear on motorways, I'd have thought, most of the time. Mileage doesn't really bother me like that. So what is it, a 70 plate? Yeah, it doesn't really bother me for that. 12 grand for this car is a lot of car for the money, isn't it? A lot of car for the money. I guess the only problem is if you do plan on selling it on yourself. If you've got 120 on it, there's two ways of doing it with 120 on. Either you keep it forever and a day, or you do, and this is a logic some people don't apply, you know that you do mega low miles every year. So by the time you then, if you keep it for a long while, come to sell it, the mileage then becomes average because you've been doing below average mileage every year, if that makes sense. And I think some people that do mega low miles, they look for mega low miles cars. I think sometimes if you do mega low mileage, you're better off going and scoring a hell of a deal on a higher mileage car, then keep it for the next sort of 5 or 6 years, and you're going to bring it down to an average. Because obviously, another 5 or 6 years on this car, if you put on another, say, 20,000 miles on it in that period of time, the mileage actually wouldn't be that out of whack with every other car out there. So sometimes it's a smart buy for people to do lower mileages, but I know most people are going to disagree with me on that, and they're going to be thinking otherwise, but sometimes logic doesn't play out when it comes to the emotional factor with cars. had one of those calls now. It's happening more and more often. It's an interesting one where people call you for a car and they say, "Oh, I've run it through motorway and it says it's worth this much. So can you match that price?" So I've got my RAV4 2.2 out there at 15.5, which is the Auto Trader recommended. And he said, "I've run it through motorway and it says it's worth £14,100. Could you do it for me at that price?" So this guy was literally ringing up, asking me to knock nearly £1,500 off the price of my car based on the valuation he put into motorway. And was motorway, wasn't it? Yeah, motorway. And I had to explain to him that motorway is if you want to sell a car to a trader, not if you want to buy a retail car. That's what would happen if you bought the car and then went into a trader and said, I want to sell this car. That's what you get for a trade. That value has nothing to do with retail at all, because in a retail sale, you're buying it from a retail environment with warranty, with preparation, all of those kind of things. So you wouldn't even be able to buy one privately at that kind of money. Not in a million years would you be able to buy one privately at that kind of money. So I explained all of that to him. So he countered that offer with, okay, could you do £14,500? I said, well, that's £1,000 off of Auto Trader recommended retail. I said, I'm just going to educate you here a little bit on how the industry works. I said, no disrespect, but if you go ringing around people making these offers, you're going to run into problems quite a lot with people. Dealers work off 10 to 15% margin. So on that car, there is in the region of about £1,500 to £2,000 maximum before VAT is paid, before the MOT is done, before the warranty is paid for other prep. So the net profit, the true net profit, might be 10%. So, for example, on that, at best, £1,400 might only be £1,000. So to go and ask somebody to knock £1,000 off the car is to ask them to provide it for you for free and then live with it for the next 6 months. It's not realistic, people. Please get that. If you can get 5% off a car, you're doing really, really well. But we'll remind ourselves why you cannot negotiate like that anymore with those big discounts. It's because, and fantastic for the consumer, all the platforms now, like Auto Trader, tell you what a fair price for the vehicle is. You can't just mark that car and go, right, okay, it's worth 15.5. I'll put it up for 16.5 and wait to get knocked back, because you just don't get any phone calls. Nobody turns up. I've had this sort of thing on camera time and time again. In the old days, no one really knew what a car's worth was. They had to do all that legwork themselves. They would shop against multiple dealers. They might walk onto a forecourt, fall in love with the car and pay over the top for it. And the dealer would have a margin he could get knocked down on. That doesn't happen anymore. You already know before you get there whether the car's got a fair price or not. So then rock up and try and get £500 to £1,000 off it. It's insanity. If you're knocking a couple £100 off a car, you're doing pretty darn well. Interesting, because we've also got people doing the same things with We Buy Any Car now. They'll run a car through We Buy Any Car and say it's worth this much, and they'll run a car through the Auto Trader system as if they want to sell the car straight out, and then they will use that value and say, well, your car's only worth that much. So there seems to be this misunderstanding that dealers can buy cars in at the price point they're seeing them at on these platforms for these trade prices and then sell them on at these trade prices. But I'm coming to a trader because I want it warranted, guaranteed, and I want to come back within 6 months. But I want a trader to sell it to me at the same price as they're buying the car in for. Unless car sales became a charity overnight and I'm unaware of it, even then it wouldn't be able to function as a charity because there's no margin to pay for everything, is there? So people need to get wise as to what the correct platforms to use are. You need to be looking at what the fair retail price for the car is, not the part exchange, the trade-in, or the trade price.